Hello beloved souls, thank you for tuning into the Spiritual Podcasts channel. This channel is all about good vibes, positive energy, and meaningful conversations. To keep this space welcoming for everyone, we kindly ask that comments stay respectful, kind, and in the spirit of the content shared here. We reserve the right to delete any comments that don't align with this intention. No hard feelings, just protecting the vibe. Thanks for being here and spreading the light. Please be cautious of anyone claiming to represent Spiritual Podcast and asking you for money, donations, or personal information. We will never ask you for money through comments, messages, or DMs. All official updates and content come only from this channel. If you see suspicious activity, please report it immediately. Stay safe and thank you for being part of our community. If you enjoy the video and its content, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please be kind to other viewers of the channel. The video is about to start.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something, well, quite extraordinary. It's a message reportedly from Mara, the Universal Mother, and it talks about the results of a huge, recent, great collective meditation.
It really is an unusual source. Very detailed. It reads almost like an after-action report for a massive spiritual and energetic operation. And our job today isn't just to summarize it.
Right. We want to really unpack the claims here. We're talking planetary purification, dismantling control systems, help from all sorts of beings, and speeding up this whole ascension thing.
Exactly. We'll look at the mechanisms described, the entities involved. The goal is to give you, the listener, a kind of structured path through this really dense, complex narrative about global change, spiritual warfare. It's intense stuff.
It is. We'll try to make sense of concepts like neural field liberation, what that even means, and these planetary healing chambers mentioned. So yeah, a structured shortcut through a pretty wild story.
Let's dive right in then. The first thing that jumps out is the sheer scale, the power they claim was involved in this meditation event. #HashHigh. The magnitude of the collective energy movement.
Okay, let's start there, because this first claim is huge. The source says the energy generated was so intense that the Earth itself oscillated. Not just a tremor, the whole planet wobbled.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
An oscillation suggests a temporary instability, like the energy surge was almost too much for the planet's own systems, its energetic grid, to handle initially. It pushed Gaia right to the edge.
Wow. So it wasn't just vibrating the airwaves, it physically affected the planet's stability.
Potentially, yeah. It could imply effects on tectonic plates, the magnetic field. The source doesn't specify exactly, but oscillations suggest something significant, and the response tells you how serious it was.
Right, it says these commands of light had to step in immediately to stabilize everything.
Exactly, which means the power generated actually exceeded their projections, or at least pushed the safety margins. It required this rapid, precise intervention just to keep the operation itself from causing unintended damage.
So, immense power, but also incredible control needed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that control came through a specific structure they describe, this double funnel.
Okay, tell us about that. It doesn't sound like just a general wave of good vibes. It sounds engineered.
It does. Imagine two huge vortexes, funnels of light energy, spinning and converging right at the Earth's center. But crucially, it wasn't just floating there, it was anchored.
Anchored? How?
By what the source calls the Christic team, the Equipe Christica, working on the surface. These people, united by their intention and love, acted as the living conduit. The surface antenna essentially keeping that focal point locked onto the Earth's core.
That implies serious focus, sustained over time. But where did all that energy come from? It couldn't just be the people meditating on the surface, could it? Even hundreds of them.
No, definitely not just them. The source details a much larger collaboration, a coalition, really.
Okay, who was involved? We know about the surface team. The source mentions over 400 individuals later on. But who else?
Well, first, intraterrestrials. Beings from inside the Earth, perhaps linked to Agartha. Then, significantly, the brothers present in the ship commands. That's the ET contribution. And of course, the Christic team we just mentioned.
Okay, so humans on the surface, beings inside the Earth, and ETs in ships. What else?
The planet itself contributed. The source mentions tapping into the vibrations of crystals within the Earth and energy from Gaia's interior, specifically naming the son of Agartha.
The son of Agartha. What exactly is that supposed to be?
In these kinds of texts, it's usually described not as a star, but as the Earth's core energy source, like a central crystal, intensely radiant, acting as the planet's heart or energetic battery. Accessing that means working directly with Gaia's core systems.
That sounds like a lot of power converging, almost dangerous maybe. How did they manage it without, breaking something?
Good question. The source mentions something fascinating here: neutrinos. It says these subatomic particles were purposefully directed to the surface.
Neutrinos, the tiny particles that pass through almost everything. Why them?
That's the interesting part. Because they interact so weakly, they can penetrate the planet easily. The claim is they weren't used for raw power, but for harmonization and stability.
How does a neutrino harmonize a giant energy vortex?
Think of it like frequency tuning. All these different energy sources, human intention, earth energy, ET tech, they probably create a lot of energetic noise. The idea here is that the neutrinos, being almost pure energy packets, could be precisely directed to subtly adjust the overall frequency of the operation, smoothing out the noise, reducing entropy, and keeping everything stable at the intended crystic vibration. They're like the fine-tuning knob.
Wow. Okay, that requires some serious tech. Which leads us to the extraterrestrial support. It sounds like they were crucial.
Absolutely essential, according to Mara. The commands on the ships were apparently irradiating energy constantly just to maintain this massive vortex. That implies incredibly advanced shielding, channeling technology, monitoring, the works.
And the scale of this support. It wasn't just local ETs, was it?
No, this is where it gets really mind-bending. The source explicitly states these ships weren't just from our solar system. They came from other star systems and even other universes, operating, quote, elevadissimus technologies, the highest technologies imaginable.
Other universes. What does that imply about Earth's significance in all this?
It frames this event as cosmically critical. If beings from other universes are investing resources here, it suggests that the problems on Earth, the control structures they were targeting, were seen as having implications far beyond our little corner of the galaxy, maybe a key linchpin in a larger struggle.
So Earth is like a key strategic point in a multi-universal conflict.
That seems to be the perspective presented, yes. And the tech involved had to be capable of bridging those vast distances and handling that kind of power. Hashtag tag 2, purification of Gaia and subterranean operations.
Okay, so we have this immense multi-universal energy surge, carefully managed. What were the results? The source talks about a massive purification.
Yes, purificação maciça. The primary outcome claimed is the dissolving of ancient, obsolete structures of control, not just tweaking things, but a fundamental energetic cleansing.
And it wasn't just abstract energy fields. It says these currents went through the physical earth seas, rivers, mountains, forests. How do you purify a mountain range energetically?
It's about clearing the energetic imprint, the memory held within the planet's matrix. Think of ley lines, the earth grid. The ideas of the trauma, negative events, control patterns, they leave a residue in the physical environment, in the water, the rocks. This energy surge acted like a solvent, dissolving those old patterns across the planet.
And this ties into the elementals, the nature spirits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source says the elementals, spirits of earth, air, fire, water, have been awakened and are now intensifying their actions. They're not just passive anymore.
What are they doing?
They're actively reconfiguring and regenerating damaged areas. So if a place was heavily polluted or held a strong negative charge from past events or the control systems, the elementals are now working consciously to restore its original energetic blueprint, its vitality. It's like nature's own repair crew kicking into high gear.
This massive cleansing on the surface apparently required work inside the Earth, too. The source mentions operations involving volcanoes in deep regions.
Yes, crucial internal adjustments. That huge energy influx, the double funnel, put immense pressure on the planet's internal systems. So they had to perform planned adjustments, especially around volcanoes and deep tectonic zones, areas that act as natural pressure release valves.
To prevent unintended side effects like earthquakes or eruptions.
Precisely. It was preemptive stabilization during a moment of maximum vibrational potency, ensuring the internal shifts didn't cause external chaos.
Let's get into something darker now. The source is very specific about targeting subterranean tunnels. What was going on down there?
This is one of the most disturbing claims. The work focused on liberating, healing, and cleaning locations allegedly used for the extraction of substances to sustain vitality and false youth.
Extracting substances from people for vitality? That sounds horrific.
It implies a hidden, deeply parasitic industry, exploiting beings, likely humans, kept underground to harvest. Well, the source calls it substances, often interpreted in these contexts as life force, adrenal compounds, things believed by negative elites to extend life or power unnaturally.
So dismantling these tunnels wasn't just symbolic, it was hitting the life support system of these negative forces.
Directly attacking their power source, yes. A source supposedly built on suffering and the violation of natural law. Breaking that cycle was a key part of the purification.
And what about the people found in these places? The source mentions a specific protocol.
A very clear post-liberation protocol. All rescued individuals are immediately taken to, quote, special beds prepared by the forces of light. The focus is immediate care, intense love, and recovery.
That implies a huge logistical operation in itself. Medical and psychological support on a massive scale.
Absolutely. We could be talking about large numbers of deeply traumatized individuals needing immediate advanced healing. Not just physical, but deep emotional and spiritual rehabilitation. It points to a very organized, compassionate rescue effort running parallel to the energetic cleansing.
It adds a whole other layer to purification. It's not just energy, it's rescue and healing.
Exactly. It's presented as both. Tag 3, dismantling systems of control in society.
Okay, so the planet's energy and structure are being cleansed, even underground. How did this affect our surface society, our institutions?
The energy work wasn't just aimed at the Earth. Mara says it was specifically targeted at our human systems. Geopolitics, finance, everything.
There's a specific mention of Europe. Why the focus there? It says work was done to disarm battle systems and neutralize conflict threats.
Historically, Europe has been a major crucible for global conflict, hasn't it? World wars started there, deep-seated tensions. The idea seems to be that if you can dissolve the energetic roots of conflict in that central hub, it makes achieving planetary pacification overall much more feasible.
So clearing out the old war energies and trauma patterns embedded there?
That seems to be the aim, dissolving the collective thought forms that keep fueling conflict in that region, allowing for a more peaceful potential to emerge.
But the really deep institutional work involved removing what the source calls organic portals. What exactly are those meant to be?
It's a tricky concept. As used here, organic portals seem to refer to entities, or maybe even soulless constructs that look human, but lack genuine empathy or connection to source. They're described as being infiltrated deep within our power structures.
Where specifically?
The source lists centers of power, institutions, governments, corporations, major systems. Essentially the nervous system of society. The operation aimed to dissolve their influence, cut them off.
Like parasites feeding off the system. And the energy surge makes it impossible for them to stay.
That's the idea. This high-frequency energy, this light, is described as being intolerable to beings who thrive on lower vibrations. Fear, control, self-interest, they literally can't sustain themselves in that environment anymore. So they're forced out, or their influence just dissolves.
Which leads to a pretty dramatic prediction in the text. We need to be careful here, but it says we should expect news of known public or political figures who simply will no longer be in the public or political scenario.
Yes, it's a bold claim. And you're right to approach it critically. How would anyone prove someone left power because of an energy shift versus, say, a scandal or retirement?
Exactly. It seems unfalsifiable.
The source doesn't offer proof in that sense. It describes the mechanism. It's not necessarily about them dying or being arrested, but about them being unable to operate any longer. The energetic environment, the source of their power, perhaps derived from manipulation or feeding off negativity, is being cut off by this incoming light. They can't function in the new frequency.
So they lose their foothold, energetically speaking.
That's the claim. They're removed not by human hands necessarily, but because the very atmosphere of power is becoming hostile to their nature. It reframes politics and corporate power as an energetic landscape.
And this wasn't just politics. It explicitly mentions all 5 pillars of society being worked on: economic, financial, health, governmental, and religious. A total overhaul.
Total systemic intention, yes. Think about it. The financial system, often criticized for debt and inequality. The health system, sometimes accused of suppressing natural cures. Government, based on hierarchy. The aim was internal purification across the board.
Getting rid of the negative influences, the self-serving elements within each pillar.
Exactly. Removing those negative beings seeking only self-benefit, as the text says. The light penetrates everywhere, preparing these institutions potentially for transformation.
Transformation into what?
Into structures that align with systems of light and the new Christic patterns. Meaning, systems supposedly based on abundance, fairness, transparency, cooperation. The opposite of the old control paradigms. Tag 4. The focus on religious structures and free will.
Okay, of those 5 pillars, the source gives special attention to the religious one. calls it the painful pillar. Why painful?
Painful, Mara says, because of seeing so many souls trapped in dogmas created for manipulation. It's a very strong critique of how organized religion, in some cases, has allegedly been used to control people rather than connect them to the divine.
Trapped through fear, guilt.
Yes, using doctrines as energetic fences, keeping people looking outside themselves for validation or salvation, preventing them from realizing their own inherent connection.
And the message offers an alternative.
A very direct one. The true temple is within your own heart. That's where the direct line to the universe, to your galactic family, to source itself, resides. It's about reclaiming that internal connection.
So it's a call to end what the text calls Kundasone Shiga, blind guidance.
Exactly. Stop blindly following external authorities, be they priests, gurus, masters, rabbis, whatever title they use. People need to wake up voluntarily, see how these institutions might be programmed for the benefit of the leadership, not the followers.
Now, this is interesting. The critique also extends to some modern spiritual movements, those that pretend to represent the new humanity, but might also be traps. How do you tell the difference, according to this source?
The key distinction seems to be whether the movement empowers the individual's own connection, their usu or I am presence, or if it demands allegiance to an external figure or hierarchy. Any system, Mara warns, whether it uses New Age language or old religious dogma that asks you to give away your power, your critical thinking, or demands unquestioning obedience, that's suspect.
So true spirituality in this view is about self-sovereignty.
Absolutely. Which leads directly to the next major theme, restoring free will. This is huge. The source claims a large part of humanity had their free will kidnapped.
Kidnapped? How?
Because their neural fields were supposedly under the control of negative forces. Think of it like energetic or psychic interference messing with our thoughts, emotions, decisions.
Like mass manipulation on a subconscious level.
That's the picture painted. Implants or conditioning that hook into our neurology. Inducing fear, apathy, consumerism, aggression. Making our choices reactive, predictable. Serving the controller's agenda rather than our own soul's purpose.
So this great meditation was also about cutting those energetic strings.
A massive untethering, yes. It says an immense number of beings are now being released from these bonds. Their neural fields are returning to their own natural resonance, their own essence.
What happens when someone is suddenly cut loose like that?
Well, the source is quite candid about it. It can be deeply disorienting. Imagine living with constant background noise and suddenly it stops. Or living guided by induced thoughts and feelings and suddenly you're left with yourself.
Confusion, maybe anger, lost.
Exactly. Feeling lost is natural, it says, because they were induced. Now the external programming is gone or fading. It's a shock to the system. A necessary but potentially difficult transition phase.
And what's the task for those people now?
To take back their personal power, to consciously claim their yusu, their I am, and start leading their own light. It's not passive. It requires actively choosing to govern oneself.
So the energy work clears the interference, but the choice is still ours.
Absolutely. Free will is sacred. The message emphasizes.
Yeah.
You have to reason, feel your own heart's guidance, follow your inner self. The path is cleared, but you have to walk it yourself. #V. The galactic hierarchies and ascension infrastructure.
Okay, managing planetary oscillation, rescuing people from tunnels, liberating neural fields. This operation sounds incredibly complex. It's no wonder the source spends time thanking all the help involved.
It really underscores the scale. The list of collaborators is extensive, spanning different star systems and spiritual hierarchies. Each probably brought specific skills or energies to the table.
Let's look at some of these names mentioned. What do they represent in this kind of cosmology? We see Pyreus and Pisirius.
Father Orion, Father Sirius. Sirius is often associated with deep wisdom, spiritual law, maybe the core blueprints for our reality. Orion can represent more of the organizational, strategic, almost military aspect of the light force's structure and deployment.
Then familiar names like the Arcturians and Pleiadians, plus Saint-Germain.
Right. Arcturians are often linked to advanced healing tech, sacred geometry, light-based frequencies vital for that energy vortex. Pleiadians often represent nurturing, emotional balance, supporting the ground crew, the Christic team. And Saint-Germain, famously tied to the violet flame of transmutation, purification, absolutely central to this mission.
The list goes on. Alpha Centauri, Andromeda, Lyra, Vega, Venus, specifically mentioning Sanat Kumara and the Law of Venus, plus Sananda and the Law of Nada. That's a galactic council right there.
It reads like a roll call of major players in galactic governance and spiritual oversight for this sector. Sanat Kumara, often seen as Earth's spiritual regent, linked to Venus and the planet's ascension plan. Sananda, associated with the Christ consciousness returning, operating under the highest laws of unity and love, the law of nada, sometimes translated as law of one or nothingness.
And then the heavy hitters. Archangels specialize light commands like the Sacred Emerald and Blue commands and the Terrestrial Alliance.
This fills out the structure. Emerald Command might handle manifestation, grounding the plan. Blue Command, under Archangel Michael, provides the ultimate protection. And the Terrestrial Alliance that's crucial represents the coordinated efforts of light workers on Earth, the incarnated ground crew, a multi-level integrated network.
Now, what about the tools? The energetic infrastructure supporting this new reality? It says Metatron's cube is continuing to act.
Metatron's cube is seen as a foundational, sacred geometric pattern underlying reality. Its continued action means the basic energetic grid, the template for this higher frequency reality, is stable and expanding. It's holding the new vibration.
And it's working with the Christic consciousness grid.
Yes, the two together amplify the effect. The Christic grid is the planetary network of love and unity. Activating it alongside the cube's structure creates stable ascension portals.
Portals for what?
Not physical doors, but zones of high-frequency energy. They make it easier for individuals to upgrade their own energy systems, integrate more light, accelerate their consciousness shift, and DNA activation.
All this, the source suggests, is preparing the ground for the solar flash.
The ground flash solar, yes. The idea is that the sun itself plays a key role in ascension, releasing waves of high-frequency energy. But the planet and its inhabitants needed to be energetically prepared to receive such a flash without being overwhelmed. All the purification work was partly for that.
Making us compatible with that intense solar energy.
Exactly. So the sun, its consciousness, plasma, energy, it could participate impeccably, supporting the process instead of causing a system overload.
And given the stakes, protection was paramount. The Blue Command under Archangel Michael provided that?
Yes, the source is specific. They surrounded and protected the entire interdimensional structure. Suggests there was significant opposition or potential interference that needed to be fielded against, ensure the whole operation could proceed without disruption.
With all that preparation done, what's next? The message talks about opening doors for grand revelation, great revelation, and contact.
This signals a major shift, moving from covert operations to overt interaction. The embrace, assistance, and reunion with stellar brothers, as it says.
Who are these brothers?
A multitude of races described as beings of love and light are now apparently waiting, ready to openly assist humanity and Gaia in rebuilding and creating the new Earth. They're not distant anymore, they're approaching.
And bringing tools. You mentioned planetary healing chambers earlier.
Yes, advanced technologies. These healing chambers are specifically mentioned devices using energy and frequency for mass healing, healing the planet itself, healing individuals rescued from trauma, helping everyone adapt to the new energies. It suggests the next phase involves rapid, technologically assisted recovery and integration.
And perhaps the most significant future element, the preparation of the Governo Divino, the divine government.
This ties back to the purging of the old pillars of society. As the corrupt elements are removed, a new framework for governments is supposedly being established, one based on divine principles, transparency, service, Christic consciousness to guide the new Earth, #6, conclusion, and historical significance.
So reflecting on all this, Mara calls this moment historical, not just for Earth, but for this reality, even transcending universes. It sounds like a major turning point was reached.
That's the claim, that Earth has successfully navigated this intense energy phase and now occupies a more advanced position on its ascension path. It locked in a higher vibrational trajectory.
And the process of revelation, the unveiling of truth, is central to what happens next for us individually.
Yes. The source outlines a path. Knowledge leads to understanding, and understanding leads to love. It's about internalizing the truth.
What truth specifically?
The truth of our own divine nature. When humanity connects with that inner truth, it's as we activate the divine Christic essence we were created with. That activation, happening now in this newly cleansed, energetic environment, is the ultimate goal.
But it's not over. Mara is very clear, more work remains. This wasn't the finish line.
Not at all. It's presented as a massive clearing, removing huge obstacles. But now the responsibility shifts even more to the individual.
What's the final call to action then for the listener?
Assume your own destiny, your mission, your service. The collective effort, open the door, remove the chains, but you have to step through it. You have to consciously choose to embody your light, your I am, and participate in building the new reality. Personal power, personal responsibility, that's the message now.
It's about activating that Yeshua on a mass scale, leading ourselves in this new, hopefully clearer reality.
Precisely. #tag outro.
Well, that was quite the deep dive. We've covered some truly mind-bending claims from this message attributed to Mara. The idea that the Earth physically oscillated from energy, needing stabilization by neutrinos.
The liberation of potentially vast numbers of people from manipulated neural fields. The prediction of public figures disappearing because they can't handle the new frequencies.
And this massive coordinated effort involving beings and technologies from potentially other universes, setting up Metatron's cube, preparing for a solar flash, and bringing things like planetary healing chambers.
It paints a picture of profound, ongoing transformation happening just behind the veil, or maybe starting to peek through.
Okay, so if we take this source at face value, even just hypothetically, the Grand Revelation is unfolding, this Governo Divino is being prepared. Let's connect that back to one of the pillars mentioned earlier, the financial system.
Which was supposedly purged of negative, self-serving influences.
Right. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If the core intention behind systems like banking and corporations, the drive for profit derived from scarcity, manipulation, or self-interest, is being energetically dissolved, as the source claims, what happens to money itself?
Does a system based purely on abundance, equity, and divine principles, as envisioned here, even need currency as we know it? Especially debt-based fiat currency.
Exactly. What would resource exchange look like in a new Earth if the very energy of predatory economics is incompatible with the environment? Does this message implicitly point towards a moneyless society or a completely different form of value exchange we can't yet imagine?
It certainly suggests the foundations of our current economic reality are being fundamentally challenged energetically first. What replaces it? That's perhaps part of the ongoing revelation and part of what humanity needs to co-create. A huge question to ponder.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of a challenging but fascinating piece of source material. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful and blessed day.